Good afternoon. Today I have Deborah with me. Hi, Deborah. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I am Deborah White from Northern Ireland in a little town called Bangor. It's just in the County Down and it's just by the beach. It's lovely. I'm a single mummy to a 14-year-old. I blinked and she became a teenager, so now I have a 14-year-old. I'm also a mummy to Poppy, who is my Shih Tzu dog, who I just absolutely adore, I love. I teach P5 part-time, so I'm in on a Monday and a Wednesday and a Thursday teaching. And on the other days, I do so many other things. I basically write teacher resources for teachers, and I'm a freelance editor, developmental editor on Fiverr.com. And I also do a little bit of ghostwriting for other authors, and I am now obviously writing my own books, which is just crazy. I don't know how that happened. And I quite like to do watercolors and play the ukulele as well. So I'm always busy. My life's always hectic, so it's crazy. crazy.
Did you always know that you wanted to be a writer?
No, but in my family, we would have quite a lot of storytellers. So I have quite a big family. So we were always waiting for that little gap so that you could actually jump in and tell your little bit of information or your little bit of news. So yeah, whenever I started teaching then, I just realized I had a real knack to be spontaneous and to be able to just get up there and tell a random story in assemblies and so on in front of all these children. And from there, then as a teacher, I started going, I really want to get books on certain topics and so on. So that's whenever I start writing them myself. So I did lots of little picture books for children. And my daughter, who is dyslexic, she's 14 and she's dyslexic, she was quite inspired by books about fairies. So whenever she turned 11, she just was too old for the fairy books that were out. So that's what started me writing my fairy journals. So I did a series of fairy books just to encourage her to read, because she used to drag a reading book over to me with tears in her eyes. Do I really have to read? So it was getting something which she liked. So I just based the main character on her. And of course, my main character then is dyslexic and has all her little traits. And of course, she goes into the fairy kingdom. And yeah, so I started writing those. Was really writing them for her, and then I self-published those. And I think quite a few people came back to me and said, you know, your second book was a little bit dark. Would you ever think of maybe writing for adults? And I thought, right, okay. So that's whenever I wrote Seen and Not Heard. I had been basically writing little in a little notebook for about 14 years before. And then it was just called White Sandals, that wee notebook. And then it became Seen and Not Heard whenever I came up with the idea of the narrator being a house. So so then all those wee pieces in that book became Seen and Not Heard. So I had sent that off to a few publishers, and one publisher came back. He was really interested. He wanted to see the full manuscript and so on. And in a conversation, he had asked me, what else am I writing? And I started telling him about the book I was writing, which was called No Rhyme, No Reason. And he then said, I want that book. So I was sort of, oh, okay. So I ended up self-publishing Seen and Not Heard. And yeah, so I finished No Rhyme, No Reason, which is about a very cold-hearted female serial killer. So it's gone from the fairy journals to this crazy book for adults. And yeah, so I just love writing, maybe exploring the darker side. And yeah, and I really enjoyed writing them. And I'm just surprised that this has all just happened, that I'm doing this now. It's crazy. So yeah.
Do you have a favourite character you've written so far?
Well, I'll have to say Ivy, who is in the fairy journals, because that's after my daughter. Now that I've written Seen and Not Heard, then we have Molly, who is also dyslexic, so it's sort of my daughter growing up. Obviously in Seen and Not Heard, with the second narrator being the house, it was the hardest part to write because I was so restricted because I'm a house. So I always end up going back and reading those pieces, and I do think that if I had to pick from the three main narrators, I would have to pick Ivy, because that was what started me off, and also she gets to see the fairies, so it's great.
Out of all the books you've written so far, what's been the most fun scene you've written, and what's been the most difficult? We'll see without spoilers.
Okay. I think whenever the most fun scene would be going into, in the fairy journals, there's an actual place called Wildflower Meadow, and it's in Crawfordsburn Country Park. It's beautiful, and there's Wildflower Meadow is this wee area off from the park. It's inside the park, but it's sort of away. You have to walk quite far to go to it, and I think it was so fun going there and sort of picturing the fairies, because I wanted so if a child ever went to Wildflower Meadow in Northern Ireland and saw, the area, then it would be true to the book. So I just did just getting down to the fairy size, and how would I climb up to that bench and so on. So that was fun, and it was fun just taking that walk and realizing how would I get on a train from here as a fairy and so on. So I really enjoyed that. So then you asked, what was the other question? It was
the most difficult.
The most difficult one for me would have to be, hands down, the scene in Seen and Not Heard, where I was writing about the little mouse that comes into the house. So I'm actually petrified of mice. So my uncle Sammy, whenever he was alive, he used to always say to me, always look at things from different point of view, don't always just go from what you see. So I just decided I'm going to write about my fear in the book. And I had the house being horrified that a mouse was coming in to the house and it was leaving, the droppings everywhere and so on. And then obviously the house has a real connection with children. So once the mouse had the babies up in the attic, then the house really warms to it and loves the little mouse. So that was hard for me because I had to do research on mice and babies and so on, and really that was cringy for me because I really do have a real mad phobia. So it was horrible. Yes, so it was funny because with that one I got the most feedback from beta readers coming back to me saying, could you not have killed the mouse in a nicer way, maybe through poison or so on. I said, if there's a mouse in your house, you're going to get it out. So they were like, oh, right enough. If it was in their house, it was different. But because of the way it was written, I think they actually felt sorry for the little mouse as well. So I managed to do it. Yeah.
I didn't think I was scared of mice until we had one in our house that we had to try and get rid of. And my mum and I turned into the biggest girls that you've ever seen, squealing if it touched us. And it was just ridiculous. Like, we're grown adults. What is wrong with us?
That was me.
Yeah. Oh, it's embarrassing, but it worked. We got rid of it eventually. Apart from using your daughter as inspiration, do you hide any other secret jokes or messages in your books?
Well, from the beginning, I met this guy on Facebook called Rick Barnes, and he's an author. And throughout both our books, whenever he's writing, whenever I'm writing, we always make reference to each other's books. because we've been doing, we read for each other, and I would do an edit on his and he would do an edit on mine, and we would subtly mention each other. So I think that's quite sweet.
I love that. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
When you are editing your books, what's the most overused word or phrase?
Oh, the word that, I use it everywhere. So I just wait to the end of my first draft, and then that's the first thing that I try and remove as many as possible from my manuscript. And then I tell other people off for using it whenever I'm doing developmental edits. Don't use it, but I use it. So yeah.
Yeah, just is another common one, I think.
Yes, just, and yeah, I'm trying to think of more. There's loads. I have a list of words that I look through to make sure that they take them out.
Swear words apparently come up quite often as well.
Right. There's no swear words in Seen and Not Heard. So, but there's swear words in my No Rhyme, No Reason book. So, but it just fits the characters, so it works.
Yeah, unfortunately, people do swear, so there's no point not putting them in.
Absolutely.
Do you have any preference for the sort of younger books or the older ones when you write?
I must say, and if any of my P5s watch this, it's going to have to be the adult books now. I just feel so inspired, and I do think that whenever I'm writing, psychological thrillers, that I can write them faster. One thing that I'm not good at is romance. I had a romance in Seen and Not Heard, and it took me 4 weeks to do one scene in a coffee shop. And I could murder somebody in 10 minutes in all my other books. So yeah, I'm not good at romance, but I would be definitely leaning towards the psychological thrillers.
And apart from Mice and Their Babies, what's the most interesting thing you found while researching your books?
Oh, it would have to be the folklore for my fairy journals. Whenever I used to go to my aunt and uncle's caravan, my aunt used to absolutely petrify all of us by just telling us stories about the banshees and about the fairies, and whenever, before I actually looked it up, I was going, did she just make this all up in her head? Where did she get these stories from? And now I look back and go, why would you tell a 7-year-old such scary stories? But so they always stuck in my head, but I always thought it was just the imagination of my aunt. And whenever I did research on it, I was going, oh my, this is all folklore. So it was amazing. So there was so many things that I remember her telling me, and it was going into my books. And then I was looking it up and I was going, wow, this is absolutely brilliant, because a lot of people believe in this. Even adults still believe in this today in Northern Ireland. So it was perfect. And there was lots of other things that I found out as well, even doing research, just talking to people, what did you believe about the fairies? My granddad had a farm just outside Ballymena, and so it was all country lanes and going across fields and so on. So as a child, I mean, I was convinced I was going to see fairies everywhere. And I think, talking to people who have grown up with people talking about fairies is just, it's so interesting, and just plugging those into the books just makes it so much more interesting. So yeah, I've enjoyed the research, definitely.
What has been your favourite first as an author?
I'll have to say my first interview with you, which is today. I thought I would be too nervous, but I'm actually enjoying it. So you're my first interview.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Have you made lots of author friends since you started writing?
Yes, I feel as if I knew them through a lot of through Fiverr, doing my developmental edits and ghostwriting, and we've kept in touch. So, and they always come back, so it's great. And yeah, and I want to meet more, and it's quite an interesting field to be in. And if you find out that somebody's writing, you know, they're so interesting, and it's just lovely to talk to them. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Is there a close community of Irish writers? Because I know Scottish writers particularly are very close.
No, I think I contacted Colin Bateman, because he wrote Divorcing Jack, and he had said to me that there isn't really writer scripts, and there, you know, unless I'm missing it. I think down south there would be more, definitely. So it's really online that I feel that I'm meeting everybody. I'm going to try and start one myself in Northern Ireland. So anyone who's interested, contact me. And yeah, and I think just meeting up would be great. And talking about our books and improving our books, would love it. Perfect for me.
And are you thinking about attending any of the literary events next year?
Oh yes, I'll look into everything that's open, and I will check it out, definitely.
Yeah. Even if you go just, you know, as an author that's not on panels and stuff, it's still amazing. So
oh yeah, definitely, I will.
And do you get a lot of feedback from your readers?
I got quite a few wee letters from children who have read my books, so that's really sweet. And one wee girl who had given me a letter where it was a little side character, and she really connected with this side character, and she told me the rest of the story from the point of view of this wee character, and I just thought it was lovely, and she did little drawings and everything, so it was really nice. Yeah. And Seen and Not Heard is just out, so yeah, I'm just going to see what feedback I get from that.
If you're able to spend a day with any author, dead or alive, who would you like to spend a day with?
Just one? Oh, what am I reading at the moment? Yes, I'm reading this book at the moment by Caroline, who wrote You. You know, the series that's on Netflix as well. Yes. But I can't just pick one. I'd have to pick her and Stephen King and Lucinda Berry, who wrote When She Returned. Yeah, and the author of the Outlander series, which I love, Diane. Yes, I would have a full house of authors. And also I would bring back Virginia Woolf, and I'd have Shakespeare in as well to make it even more exciting in my household. We do karaoke after.
And who would you fangirl over most if you met them, or author?
I would quite like to meet Mark Edwards. Yeah, my daughter and I have been reading his books together, so that's quite nice because that's bonded us together. So I would just love to just sit down and chat to him. Or Chuck Palahniuk. Am I getting his name right? Chuck Palahniuk. I just think he would be such a... I probably wouldn't speak very much. I would just be in awe of his writing and go. So and talk about Fight Club with him. So I would just love it. Yeah.
Well, you should definitely go to the literary festivals. I've seen Mark Edwards from a distance. I don't think I've ever spoke to him, but I spoke to like Ian Rankin, who just said good morning as I was sitting there by myself. It was just weird, but yeah. So you know, that's just what happens. Everyone's all the same, and I just talk to anyone. So yeah,
I would love that.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome.
Yeah, cool. I would definitely try and do that.
Yeah. What was I just going to ask you? Oh, if you were able to travel to any period of time, either forwards or backwards, where would you go?
Oh, that's really hard. Just at the end of World War II, maybe. I quite like all the outfits and everything, and I could just see all the celebrations going on. And yeah, definitely. What about you? Where would you go?
I'd go to the 80s, but as a teenager or early 20s, because I was born in 83, so I missed all of the epic music. So I'd love to go back and be old enough to see some of the, otherwise, I think like the 20s, a lot of people say the 20s because of the outfits and everything. It was just awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. The outfits are the best.
Yeah, but
Did you
first
wear a
80s.
rah-rah skirt in the 80s? You'd have to wear your rah-rah skirt and your leg warmers.
Yeah, at least women didn't have to have mullets, so that's fine. And it's just dodgy dancing. I love watching 80s music videos. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's good. Even the aerobics is hilarious, doing the aerobics. They're really short. Yeah.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
Oh, it would have to be Kiefer Sutherland, which is really rare one. And then Robert De Niro. And I watched all the De Niro films, so maybe that's where my dark side comes from. So yeah. So
Bad
Kiefer Sutherland
boys.
is gorgeous.
Yes, he is. I agree. Totally
Yeah.
agree with you.
Nobody agrees with me here about that.
Well, that's their loss then, isn't it? If they can't see it, then
Mason as well.
Yeah, it's his voice though for me.
Oh yeah.
I totally get that.
That's good.
Do you collect anything?
Oh gosh, yes. Filofaxes. I collect filofaxes. I'm crazy stationery girl. Which is just a nightmare because I mean I have a caravan and I have all my filofaxes there. I'm embarrassed to show anyone my collection because it's an addiction completely, and I don't use them all. Planners, Hobonichis, filofaxes. That's me.
Yeah, it's notebooks for me, and it's embarrassing, really. And
Same.
I mean, I don't mind, but it's where to keep them.
I know, and I don't. I stand and look at notebooks, and my daughter drags me away. And TK Maxx, she says, "You don't need another one. You don't need another one." And I'm always looking for. I don't like them if they're lined. I like them blank, or with dots. So, so I'm flicking through them all. I'm like, "God, I don't need these. I've got about 50 at home. I don't need them."
My ideal notebook is an A4 blank notebook, but spiral bound, and you can't find them anywhere.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the dream for me. I need to get out more, I think.
Yes, I understand the dream, which is worrying. Yeah.
It's very. I go places with my autistic friend, and he's like, "You're gonna buy a notebook?" I'm like, "Maybe." Even he knows he's picked up.
Yeah, he's picked up quickly. Oh, my daughter hates the area in the shop. I'm either looking at books or around at the stationery area, and she's just going, "Oh, Mom, please, how long do you wait here?" Oh, it's terrible. So I try and restrict myself.
Yeah, I know it's quite an expensive hobby to have, isn't it?
Terrible, terrible. And pens as well. I like pens. Pens that are glittery and yeah.
Yeah, totally get that too. If you were able to visit any country, where would you be your first choice?
I would like to go to America and visit my author friend Rick Barnes. So I'd like to see him. And then he lives quite close to Stephen King. So just pop round to Stephen King's house just to get a photograph outside his gates. So America, I've never been to America. Have you been?
I've been to Florida twice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was amazing. I want to go to New York. That's top of my list.
Oh, yes. Lots of people say that. I don't mind it, just so I've stepped in America.
Yeah, it was so clean, and people were so friendly. And as soon as they realised you were British, that was it. They loved you. They love our accents.
Yes.
So, and it's so weird. You walk into a shop and you hear a good morning or something. And you're like looking around, like, where did that come from? But every shop, it's not a one-off. It really was something else.
Oh wow, I can't wait. That's my next trip, I think.
Yeah, totally worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So different. Where would you go?
Rome.
Rome.
I've never been either, and that's, yeah, that would be first, I think.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to go. I mean, I want to go everywhere, to be honest. I want to see it all, but yeah, Rome, I think, would be my first choice.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to fulfill these dreams, Donna.
I know. Yeah, I just need to get rich first somehow. Yeah, that would be helpful. I mean, I can't complain. I've been to quite a few places, so like I've been to Egypt.
Wow.
And Florida as well. So yeah, it's not terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't complain. So you said what you're working on at the moment. So do you know what's coming next for you?
Yes, I'm working on another psychological thriller called Better Safe Than Sorry. So that's will be my third one, and I'm really enjoying it. So I am. There are two main characters. One is from America. One's from America, and whenever she goes through a really bad experience, I'll not tell you what it is, she hears a voice in her head, but the voice in her head is a girl from Dublin, so who really exists. So you hear both stories and then how they actually come together at the end. It's quite exciting.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, I don't think I have any more questions, unless there's anything you think I haven't asked you that you want to tell us about.
Oh my goodness. No, I'm very happy with that interview. It has been my first interview. Thank you very much, Donna. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, just before we go, do you want to just tell everyone where they can find out more about you and where they can get your books from?
Well, I have a website. It's www.authordeborahwhite.com. And my books, Seen and Not Heard, and my fairy journals are on Amazon at the moment. So, and hopefully No Rhyme No Reason will be coming out either at Christmas time or just at the summer. So it just depends how quickly we go through this edit. So that's very exciting. But it was lovely to talk to you. Thank you for having me on.
Pleasure, anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you.